So we have economics, paper 1, May 2020. Start. First question. So which one of the following is the term for the next best alternative given up when a choice is made? When a choice is made, it means there's a foregone alternative, which is opportunity cost. So the answer is C. Clear. So we'll go to question 2. Which one of the following? Okay. So which one of the following options shows the effects on the market for motorcycle helmets after a fall in the price of motorcycles? Motorcycles use helmets, which makes helmet a complementary good. Do you get the point there? So yes. That means the price of complementary good, which could be a factor that could shift the demand curve. Are you with me? Yes. So I've said 2 things here. Now, a fall in price of motorcycles means the demand for helmets will increase. A fall in price of motorcycles will increase the demand for motorcycles. Yes or no? Yes. As a result, the demand for helmets will also increase. Okay. Do you get the point now? Yes. So if the demand for helmet increases, that means the price for helmet would definitely what? Increase. So because suppliers would react to the increasing demand for helmets. So what are these situations? The first one, supply will shift rightward. No. So it is not A. Here it is about an increase in a shift in the supply curve rightward means there's a reduction in the cost of production or subsidy or availability of raw materials. We shift the supply curve rightward. So we're not talking about raw materials yet, and we're not talking about supply, we're talking about demand. Do you get the point? So it is not A at all. B, which is the answer anyway, but I'm going to explain. Do you get that? Okay, B, I'm going to explain. An increase in a fall in the price of motorcycle will increase the demand for motorcycles, which has a complementary good, which is helmet. So an increase in the demand for helmet will increase the price for helmets, making us to have a high equilibrium price from PE to P1. Are you with me? Yes. Which means the quantities demanded will have increased from QE to Q1, which is a response to the price, which comes as a result of a movement along the supply curve, shifting the demand curve rightward from D to D1. I've said 4 things here. There's going to be new equilibrium price at P1. Why would there be new equilibrium price at P1? It will be as a result of movement along the supply curve, shifting the demand curve rightward from D to D1, while the quantity would have increased from QE to Q1. Clear? So the answer is B. C, a leftward shift would have meant that maybe there's an increase in cost of production, or an increase in taxation, or lack of availability of raw materials, these are reasons why supply curve should shift leftward. And at that point in time, price will increase because there will be movement along the demand curve. Yes. Demand would increase more than supply. So movement will bring about increase in price. I'm explaining C. And for D, it's movement along the supply curve, which is either contraction or expansion. So it's not that. So the answer is B. Clear? We move on. What is meant by the term external cost? When you talk about external cost, we're talking about negative externalities caused as a result of production or consumption of goods and services by firms, individuals, or governments, which becomes a cost to the third party. Clear? Yeah. Example, here it says, take an example of external benefit. External benefit could be education, could be vaccination. You get that? This question E. The problem of scarcity is that there are unlimited wants and finite resources. Divide the term wants. These are the desires of human for goods and services. The desire for humans, desires of humans for goods and services. Did you mention desire? If you do, you get the mark. For goods and services, that means it's always what? Unlimited. We move on. Private facilities in which swimmers can change clothes are available at the swimming pool in Sailly, Belgium. The quantity demanded for these facilities during each of the first 3 months are this: January, February, March. So these are the quantity demanded. Calculate the excess demand for private changing facility. For the first 3 months of 2019, the quantity supplied during each month was 3,000. So the total demand for 3 months are 3,600 plus 3,200 plus 3,100. That's the total demand. The total supplied are 3,000, 3,000, 3,000, which is 9,000. Now we need excess demand. Excess demand is total demand minus total supply. Total demanded minus total supply. Demanded minus total supply, which is 9,900 minus 9,000, which is 900. Did you get that? Great. We'll move on. Question G. Using the diagram below, draw the likely effect on the market for bread after a decrease in the population. Label the new curve and the new equilibrium price and the new equilibrium quantity. Note, equilibrium price is the price of agreement between demand and supply. Equilibrium quantity is the quantity of agreement between quantity demanded and quantity supplied. Get that point clear, right? Yes. Okay, good. Equilibrium itself is the agreement between quantity demanded and quantity supplied, where we have the equilibrium point, which is the point of agreement between quantity demanded and quantity supplied. So, if population reduces, population is one of the factors that might increase the demand for a product. So, if the population of a country reduces, the demand for goods and services will definitely fall. Do you get that point? So, leading to what? A reduction. So, it will reduce the quantity demanded for goods, like bread here, reducing the quantity demanded from QE to Q1. Are you with me? As a result, the demand curve will shift leftward from D to D1. Bringing about movement along the supply curve, leftward. Yeah, I love that. Movement along the supply curve. I like the way you're saying it now. From PE to P1, because the price will fall. Yeah, suppliers would have to respond to a fall in demand by reducing their price to continue to encourage them to buy more. Clear? We'll go on. Explain one possible barrier to entry a new firm explain one possible barrier to a new firm. Explain one possible barrier to entry a new firm might face when trying to enter this industry. This industry is about music industry, which is dominated by few firms, right? Few large firms there. So one barrier to entry here is advertisement cost. What did you write? Okay, it's okay. Advertisement, which is a barrier. So when we talk about, there are other barriers like economies of scale, but I choose advertisement cost. And for advertisement cost, look at these firms. These firms are large. Warner, BMG, Sony, they are large firms. They are well established. So a new firm coming to compete with them would need to spend so much on publicity, advertisement. And this, it's not easy for a new firm. So a new firm might not have the financial capability to do that. As a result of that, not being able, finding out that it's difficult to raise funds to compete in terms of publicity with these firms might discourage a new firm from going into that industry. That brings a barrier. Clear? We move on. There's a case study. You don't have to read. It's there for the students to read. With reference to the data above and your knowledge of economics, analyze why all 4 factors of production might be used to produce coffee. I used to tell my students, even before this type of question comes in, whenever I explain factors of production, I used to tell them that there's no product, there's no production without factors of production. This is what I used to tell them. That even teaching involves all the factors of production. There's nothing we want to produce in terms of goods or services without the factors of production. None of them will be excluded. So it means we need all the factors of production for production. That's why we call it factors of production. And what are factors of production? These are resources that help in the production of goods and services. So that means we have land, labor, capital, and enterprise. So we start with land. Based on the case study, beans are picked by hand from the coffee plants. This represents land. The coffee plantation is the land, it is on land, and anything on land is land. So we need land for coffee. Clear? Yeah. 2, they said being picked. It won't be picked by animals, right? It will be picked by people. And that represents human labor. Clear? In the case study, they talked about processing through machines, right? That represents capital. Clear? And all these things are done by a company. Yes or no? That represents enterprise, which is the organizer of all the factors of production. Okay? And the organizer of all the factors of production must ensure that all these things reach the consumers and they are satisfied. Okay? So whenever you talk about consumer, you have to end it with satisfaction. Okay? We move on. Question 2. Market share of a firm is being shown here. So we have the case study. We have the case study. So they said, which one of the following? They said, which one of the following option is the most suitable term for the type of market shown in figure 3? So figure 3, we have firm 1 having 93%, firm 2 having 2%, firm 3 having 2%, firm 2 having 3%, sorry, firm 3 having 2%, and firm 4 having 2%. So there's a dominance of a firm here. So there's a dominance here. So there's a dominance of a firm here, which is firm 1, dominating the industry with 93%. And the dominance represents monopoly. You know, monopoly is a market, is a market structure where there's a dominant firm, or it's only one firm supplying goods or services within that economy. So it's a monopoly because it has 93%. The rest are going with 7%. So it's dominating. Firm 1 is dominating. It's clear. Yeah. So that's why it's monopoly. Any question about that? So we'll move on. That's C. Question B. Which one of the following is the reason why consumers may not maximize their benefits? Consumers, sometimes, most of the time, consumers do not maximize benefit because one, when we talk about maximizing benefit, we are talking about consumers being rational. A rational consumer is a consumer that can maximize its benefit in cost of consumption. So most of the time, consumers will not be able to understand how to maximize their benefit because either by over-consuming or under-consuming. That is the point. So one of the reasons why consumers might over-consume or under-consume is information. So information is one. But here they are not using information. Here we have other factors. So the first one, now I'm just telling you about information. You know, sometimes consumers lack information. As a result of lacking as a result of not having access to information, makes them to overconsume or underconsume. You get the point there? Yeah. So here, the same situation. So the second, consumers may accurately calculate the satisfaction they gain. If it's accurately done, it means they have access to information. So it's not A. Consumers may have habits that are hard to give up. That's the answer. It's B. Do you get it too? Yes. Good. So, you know, when we talk about habits, habit comes with influence. So you don't even care anymore the benefit of consuming it, but it becomes habitual of you. So whenever you see maybe a product, oh, Louis Vuitton, oh, Nike, oh, this, I don't want to care. Whatever they are producing, I just want to buy.
It's either about the trends or if you're just emotionally attached to the company.
So you are emotionally attached. So it becomes an habit or an attitude that it becomes difficult for you to give up. So that makes you to overconsume that makes you to overconsume most of the time. Clear? So the answer is B. So we move on, right? Or you want me to explain other options?
Yeah, explain.
Consumers are always rational. Well, I told you about a rational consumer. I said it already. Yeah. A rational consumer is that consumer that is able to maximize his benefit. So we're still talking about maximizing benefit, which is the same as A. And consumers never copy the behavior of others. That means there's no attitude, there's no habitual behavior here. There's no influence.
There's trend. They're following the trend.
Is it clear? Yeah. So go to C. State the formula of price elasticity of supply. Percentage change in quantity supplied over percentage change in price. Do you get that? Yeah. Cool. We move on. We have a case study. We have a schedule anyway. So this is calculated total variable cost. First, you have to indicate which one is fixed, which one is variable. Rent is a fixed cost. Raw materials is a variable cost. Advertising is a fixed cost. Labor paid according to output That is, we call it, I know, it's not about variable, I know it's a variable cost, we have a name for it. We have, when you pay according to output, piece weight. We call it piece weight. So it's a variable cost. So the variable costs here are 15,000 plus 2,000, which is 17,000. Clear? We move on. Define the term takeover. Takeover occurs when the firm buys over another firm. Clear? We move on. Describe one reason why demand for a product usually becomes more price elastic over time. Time is a factor that determines elasticity of demand. Get my point here. Time is a factor that determines both elasticity of demand and elasticity of supply, but they are different. For elasticity of time or elasticity of demand, it means sometimes it's in the short run, it is difficult for consumers. Did you get it? No.
No.
Okay. In the short run, it's difficult for consumers to easily find a substitute. As a result, they don't have any other choice than to buy. But in the long run, if that market is profitable, it becomes an incentive for new firms to set up. New firms setting up in that industry would increase the quantity produced in that industry. Output will increase. As a result, more substitute for firms for consumers to choose from. Yes, is it clear? So we move on. In the UK, the speed limit of drivers in urban areas are 30 miles on the rest. There's one reason why the UK government may use fines to reduce the negative externalities caused by drivers speeding in urban areas. The first one negative externality caused by over speeding is accidents. But before we go into that, what are fines? Fines are financial penalty. Are you with me? Fines are financial penalties paid by those who cause negative externalities. Are you with me? So fines may discourage the drivers from overspeeding, which means there will be reduction in accidents, which is caused by negative externalities. Is it clear?
Yes.
Did you get that?
Yes.
Okay. We'll move on. The case study is there for them to read, but I'm just going to go straight to the question. With reference to the data above and your knowledge of economics, assess how effective public sector ownership and private sector ownership are likely to be in solving economic problems. Economic problem is scarcity, allocation of resources. Are you with me? So first you have to define what public sector is. Public sector ownership is through the government institutions. So therefore, the institution channel efforts in providing services in the interest of the public. So, it's about services. They want to improve, government wants to improve services. So it's about they don't want to make profit, but they want people to be happy, a better life. So that's the first point there. The second point I make about the public sector ownership is that the public sector ownership effectiveness may be on the goods and services that might not be produced by the private sector. So there's market failure in the private sector. There's always a market failure. That's why we have government intervention. Yes or no?
Yes.
So government ownership might come. Government might take over because the private sector are not producing the goods and services needed, especially public goods and the merit goods. So this might bring about public ownership of the government. Is it clear? The third point I make, this means countries such as a result of that, this means countries such as Cuba may rely heavily on the public sector ownership to produce goods and services as one of the main objectives of the public sector is to reduce wastage. And we're talking about economic problem scarcity here. So these resources are not enough. And one of the government aim is to reduce wastage. When you go back to the public sector in economics, one of their aim in the public sector is to reduce waste. So to reduce waste, government is taking charge, which is public ownership. You get the point? However, the private sector ownership, which can be through the sole trader, the partnership, or company, allocates by company. Resources are allocated by private individuals or firms. Countries like Japan, according to the case study, which produces electricity, right? Electronic goods,
yes,
may be more efficient due to the objective of the private sector, which is profit maximization. So these resources are scarce. We need efficiency. We don't want to waste resources, right? So there's a Japanese word which is kaizen. Continuous improvement.
Yeah.
Okay, so, well, that's the word. It brings about improving quality and becoming efficient, more efficient. So the private sector wants to, their aim is to profit maximize. They want to maximize profit. But you can't always maximize profit by increasing prices because consumers are always conscious about price. They are sensitive to price. So one way to maximize profit is by maintaining your price or maintaining the market price and finding a way to reduce your cost. Reducing your cost means you are being efficient. Do you understand? So the private sector would become more efficient by reducing their cost of production so that they can be more profitable. Is it clear? We move on. Question 3. Are you there? Which one of the following is most likely to cause a shift to the left in the supply curve? We talked about a shift to the left in the first question. So it could be as a result of increasing cost of production. Here we have increased indirect taxes. Increased indirect taxes would bring about increasing consumption because firms would have to buy raw materials. And if government has increased taxes on indirect taxes, which is spending, so it means cost of production for firms would increase. And that brings about no incentive or de-incentive to produce further. So supply curve will shift leftward from S to S1. Okay. We move on. So the answer is A. Cost reduction will bring about an increase, a rightward shift in the supply curve. Increased subsidy will bring about a rightward shift in the supply curve. Decreased advertisement with reduced cost of production will bring about, decreased advertisement will affect demand mostly. Decreased advertising would reduce cost, which can also reduce cost, will also increase profitability and might be able to spend more on output. It will shift the supply curve rightward. But most of the time, decreased advertisement might bring about reduced awareness, reducing the quantity demanded. So advertisement is mostly linked to demand. So it is not D. And B and C will shift the supply curve rightward. Okay. Which one of the following best describes an income elasticity of demand? Income elasticity of demand is the degree of responsiveness between the quantity demanded of a product as a result of a change in the level of income. So we have inferior. Inferior is always negative. Unitary, it's not in income elasticity, it is in PED and PES. Luxury goods, yeah, it's luxury anyway. And inelastic is always less than 1. So it is elastic, it is more than 2. So for luxury, in income elasticity, luxury goods are discretionary, which means people buy them to show off. So and you can only show off when you have more income. Yes or no? Yes. It is C, clear. We move on. We have to draw a PPC here. Did you get it?
I think.
All right, let me see. Let me just see.
Oh.
Oh, no, it's wrong. They said for diaries and calendars. So you remember PPF or PPC is a graph that shows the combination of two goods that can be jointly produced if all resources are fully utilized. So the two goods are diaries and the calendars. So here they said there is an increase in the production of calendars. And in PPC, it is always opportunity cost. If you are increasing one, you are sacrificing the second. If you are increasing the second, you are that is why we have opportunity cost. That's why most of the time when we discuss opportunity cost, we come with PPC. So I made the notes here. And read. So with the PPC, the diaries are, so this is how the graph will look like. Diaries and calendars. As diaries are reducing, calendars are increasing. Clear? Move on. And stories are there. So I think I explained it already. Yeah. Okay, move on. Question D. With reference to the data above and your knowledge of economics, analyze why the Turkish government might want to increase the minimum wage every year. What is minimum wage? I wrote, minimum wage is the least wage that can be legally paid to the lowest ranked employee in a country, such as Turkey. Now, the Turkish government increased the wages from 2020 to from 2020 to 2,558, which means an increase of 26.63%. You get the point for that. Are you with me? You get the point for that? Yes. Yes. Because they said analyze. This will increase the level of income of the lowest paid workers in Turkey. As a result, improve the living standards. And the last point I make here is that by increasing the minimum wage, this will reduce government spending on low paid workers, and doing this through making it illegal for employers to pay below it. So government is, look at what happens here. Government is logically taking off responsibilities, expenditures, by putting it on the shoulders of employers. Clear? So that government might be able to use those money on infrastructure, health, education. Any question about that? Move on. We have a case study again, and the question immediately. With reference to the data above and your knowledge of economic assess whether Istanbul's new airport is likely to benefit from internal economies of scale. First, what is internal economies of scale? Internal economies of scale is a cost advantage enjoyed by firms due to expansion. Example, the airports. Clear?
Yeah.
So internal economies of scale includes managerial economies of scale, technical economies of scale, market economies of scale, financial economies of scale, and so on. According to the case study, the new Istanbul airport will be able to handle around 200 million passengers, right? Each year. This means seats will be needed.
Purchasing economies of scale.
Purchasing. Large quantities of seats will be needed. That brings about bulk buying, purchasing economies of scale. Great. Also, the airport may be able to enjoy technical economies as the cost of installing equipment in the 6 runways. That means the cost will be shared among the 6 runways. So whatever equipment is being purchased, the cost will be based on the 6 runways. Is it clear?
Yeah.
However, the airport may suffer from these economies of scale, such as communication problems due to becoming too large, which results into increased average cost of production. Get it? Also, the airport may not enjoy purchasing economies of scale. Why? Airport is not built in a day. They build them over time. So they might not be able to buy large quantities of seats at the same time. Clear?
Yeah.
We move on. How's it going? Good. How's it going? Good. Huh?
So far, so good.
Okay, good. Question 4. We have a table. Financial data of a firm, and the story is there. Calculate the total revenue for the product that has a price elasticity of demand, which is elastic. We have inelastic here. We have elastic here, inelastic here. We do the indicator. Elastic and inelastic. Good. So it is elastic. It is the 1.46, which is elastic, right?
Yes.
So the total revenue is price multiplied by quantity, which is 1650 multiplied by 20, $33,000. Okay. Did you get that? Great. It seems simple. That's an artist. Then we just go to the case study. With reference to the data above and your knowledge of economics, analyze how an increased ability to move to different types of employment might affect the supply of labor. The flexibility to move from one job to another. I was a banker, now a teacher. That's occupational mobility. So I go there anyway. Before I go into that, first you have to explain what supply of labor is. Supply of labor is the number of workers making themselves available for a job at a given wage rate. Did you get that? Good. So the case study indicates occupational mobility, which is the ability of workers to switch from one job to another, such as an artist becoming a teacher. That's the point. Eh? The supply of labor is likely to increase if there is flexibility in labor, which allows easier switching from one job to another. The government scheme, based on the government scheme, which helps in the training of teachers, means people now have access to training, which can effectively increase the supply of labor. Clear? Move on. We have the case study there. It will be read by the students, and I'm just going to answer the question. With reference to the data above and your knowledge of economics, evaluate the possible effects of an increase in the use of technology on productivity in restaurants. First, what is productivity? Output divided by input. When you do that, you get the mark for that. Yeah. So technology makes production becomes faster and better. This indicates productivity and efficiency. The use of robots instead of waiters is an indication of seeking for efficiency. and increased productivity and increased productivity. Are you with me?
Yes.
Which means restaurants may be able to take orders from with being clumsy.
Without being clumsy.
With being clumsy, which waiters might be okay, I just have to rewrite here. Which means restaurants may be able to take orders from customers, which waiters might not be able to do due to being clumsy, due to clumsiness. Okay, which means restaurants may be able to take orders from customers, which waiters might not be able to do due to being clumsy at some points. Yes, they are human. They might get tired.
Simple human errors.
Yeah. Is it clear?
Yes.
I wrote it here.
Yeah.
So this might help restaurants to gain more customers and hold on to their existing ones, which may bring about increased revenue. Yeah. However, restaurants need human relations or engagements, which means robots cannot be assigned to do such tasks. The point is clear, right? Others might take longer period if customers are, because they have to use tablets here. Others might take longer period if customers are confused about the use of tablets. This may reduce productivity. It might be less productive in the short run, as waiters might be needed during the initial stage to assist customers with the use of tablets. More resources are used. It doesn't bring about efficiency and productivity. In conclusion, the level of productivity might be determined by the time with which customers were able to adapt to the new system. Okay, so that ends May, June 2020. Yes.